I got you, man.
All right, cool.
I was just, do you hear me okay? Because I was gonna mic up. If you hear me okay, then I won't.
I would say don't mic up. It's fine.
Okay, perfect. I love that. Okay, I liked it. All right, brother. How you doing, man?
Yeah, pretty good, man. I've pretty much finished everything I was doing as far as classes and training for the summer. So I've got a couple of weeks off for once. It was busy, busy, busy up until the end of last week, and now I'm just kind of going back into just lay around the house and do honey-do list stuff. So nothing crazy.
That's always fun. So you're just waiting for the next training class.
Pretty much. Yeah, that actually won't happen until mid-September is my next training class. It's just, it's brutally hot here in Florida, so if I don't have to go train outside, I won't.
Yeah.
So,
No, I bet. I am. Sam and I hung out most recently at Goons Night Out. Sam came down to be an instructor for us. Those of you that attended Goons Night Out, you know Sam. He's got the guitar.
over here.
Yeah, dude. You got to show the hardware
Yeah,
behind you.
yeah.
We got to talk guitars too at some point. Sam is an avid musician and guitarist, and I dabble a little bit, though I don't have any good guitars anymore. I pawned them all for guns, for P320s. So that was probably a mistake. But anyway, we'll get into some training stuff here in a little bit. But Sam and I were talking about the drama with the P320s, and I just told him, I was like, hey man, we should have a discussion on a live just to kind of talk to the communities about it. And yeah, so here we are. You want me to lead off?
Well, yeah, not to beat a dead horse too much, but anybody who's everybody kind of already knows what's going on with the P320, just with the uncommanded discharges, and that is, when they first started happening, it was, oh, it's just the 320, it's not the M17, M18 series, and then it started happening on the entire lineup of um, the 320 series guns. So, there have been several uncommanded uncommanded discharges that have resulted in people being wounded by their guns, and now there are at last count 2 fatalities. So this is becoming this has definitely it's gone from a minor thing to an unfortunate major thing, and it was only kind of a matter of time, but it inevitably happened. So
Right.
here we are, and I sat down today, and I kind of I plotted out 3 courses of action that I see the 320. Well, the issue with the 320 going as far as the DoD is concerned. So we can talk about those here in a little bit, or you can, expand on what I previously said.
So yeah, I'd like to kind of open up with my thoughts on the 320. I've been a 320 shooter since 2021. So the 320 has been like most 320 guys who shoot as much as I do. We came from Glock, and obviously before that in the military, Beretta. And I love the Beretta. What I loved about the Beretta was the grip angle. I love that 18-degree grip angle. But when I got out, I got a Glock, and I love my Glocks and still have all my Glocks, because what's the point of selling a Glock? You just don't do that. It's like having I don't know, a 2013 Toyota 4Runner with 60,000 miles in it. Why the hell would you sell it?
Right.
So that's kind of how I feel about my Glocks, but I never loved shooting them as much as I love shooting the 320s. And the reason why I love the 320 so much, I actually was kind of with most of the Glock folks initially when the Glock lost the MHS contract to Sig. I was with everybody that was kind of a Glock guy at the time was like, this is BS. what a freaking scam. Glock should have won the contract purely due to money. I bought one, and the reason why I bought one initially is because I wanted to see like what the hell it was all about. But I bought a Legion. The first one I bought was the 320 Legion. And actually the first time I owned it for about a year, and the first time I shot it was in the Night Fighter that we did, the first Night Fighter. When you came down, was the first time I shot that. I don't know if you knew that, but the very first time I shot the 320, I had it in my safe for a year. I brought it because I knew Jason wouldn't show up with a gun with a freaking light on it or a dot. He just showed up with his, basically he showed up with a gun with cowboy sights on it. It may as well just have been like something like that.
Sure.
Is kind of what he showed up with. So I was like, here, dude, shoot my Glock. I'm going to shoot this 320. In the class, we did a bit of pistol shooting, especially in our nods, and I really enjoyed shooting the P320, and I started getting more and more into it. All the 320s that I have are with a skeletonized trigger, and most of them from the custom workshop. This specific carrier right here has about 15,000 rounds through it. This one has about 20,000 rounds through it. This one is an Apache from Dave Mods. And this AXG Legion has this is my main gun that I shoot, and about 25,000 rounds through it. And I shoot the absolute shit out of them. I buy around 25,000 rounds a year that I shoot personally, and I just shoot the crap out of them, right? So I loved them. Now, when we start seeing these issues with the 320s, it's concerning because there's obviously something going on with them. There's obviously something in the design that's causing them to fail. I don't know exactly what it is. I've seen a bunch of videos trying to break down exactly like what's happening. The most recent one I sent you, where a guy was, just real quick, clear guys, when a guy was putting a screw into the trigger, basically taking out the slack so he's up to the wall, and then manipulating the frame, and then the striker would drop. Mine's not doing that. Like, none of mine, I've tried that with mine. None of mine had done that. The other one, 320s in a trench coat, did a great video with sear movement. So what you do is you take a tool and you push down on the sear on the back through the gap in your back plate. You drop the sear, and the striker is supposed to drop, but it doesn't on mine. So any of mine, I've tried them with all of them. So these guns that I've seen these videos with, there's obviously an issue with. The FBI report, I looked at that too. Apparently they looked at a M17 that went off in a holster. They couldn't get it to recreate what it did, but with that M17, it was a 40 cal. This was, no, that's not it. So the M17 was a 9mm, rather. The FBI report said that there was a specified, they didn't say exactly what the UD was, but they couldn't get it to repeat. And they did testing on it, and they set the gun up in a certain way to where it could possibly fail. These guns can fail. We've seen that they have failed in certain instances, and whether or not it has to be a human input at some point, because we never see one of these with the magazine in, gun charge, condition 1, left on a safe for an hour, and then they detonate. That just doesn't happen, right? So there's some kind of human input. Well, that's when we use them. We use them with human input, right? So there's a concern, right? If it went off on its own when it's just sitting in my safe, yeah, that's a major problem, but it's even more of a problem if it goes off when it's on me. We need to be able to run around with our guns. We need to be able to, get into an urban prone and lean on your gun, lean on your magazine, and not, think that it might detonate on you when that happens. So obviously there's an issue going on with them. Yeah, I've never had any issues with my 320s, but there's something going on with them, and I think that's why a lot of trainers, a lot of ranges, a lot of companies are just backing away from the 320 because of a liability standpoint. That's why the military is probably doing the same thing. Like a lot of law enforcement agencies too. It's almost like the SERP holster. Even if it is, something that there's human interaction causing an accident, it's just better for them to be like, you know what? until they figure this shit out, we're not even going to mess with them. So just don't bring them to a training class. Bring something else.
And based on the amount of videos, just closed circuit TV security videos of guns going off at like police stations or whatever, plus all the videos that you're seeing of old guy getting his with a little bit of pre-travel taken out and then manipulating that slide and having it go off. That's one way guys are getting it to go off. The other way is having it fall. Basically, if the gun falls at it's basically this angle where the gun forms a V and it hits that rear sight. That's where guns are going off for the drop safe stuff or lack thereof. And it's there's so many different ways guys have gotten these guns to go off. And it's just like, do we have one issue, or is there a wide variety of issues with these guns based on, this batch of this part and this lot number of that part or whatever? So like actually narrowing it down to what it is, I think it's going to be tricky.
Well, yeah, I think it'll be impossible. I think that Sig Sauer in general has kind of taken um, a deny and defend type of strategy, where at this point, since they've had some lawsuits that they've had to pay on, but then they've had other lawsuits where they've been proven where the gun has been mechanically safe. At this point, they're at a deny and defend, because if at this point they're like, you know what, yeah, we should have put a dingus on the trigger. You know what I mean? There should have been a trigger lock, a trigger safety, or something like that. Let's recall 3 million guns and put a trigger safety on them. At that point, if they did that, that would be an admission of guilt. So I don't think they can possibly do that. There's no way in hell that SIG tries to walk this back with some kind of recall. Because again, in a lot of these lawsuits, and I've looked at them, I actually did a bunch of research before you and I chatted on this, but with a lot of these lawsuits, SIG has won based on the mechanical design of the pistol. And mechanically, if everything is working, they're right. It's impossible for the gun to fire without a trigger pressed, without some type of manipulation on the trigger. But if parts are not working correctly, or if there are, some wear on some tolerances, or, like the guy was showing you, there's a half a millimeter in play between the frame and the slide.
Right.
And you don't freaking have that. The 1911 doesn't even move. My Glocks don't move. This gun has that play. So as the striker and assembly inside the slide is interacting with the trigger, the FCU that's inside the frame, and that much play, I mean, there might be something there. Again, I've seen a bunch of different videos that show where people have thought that they figured this thing out. I can't get it to recreate with any of mine, and I've tried them all. But obviously there's a problem.
Yep. And kind of like what Cam is saying in the comments, it's like the only guns that you're hearing about in the news that are having these discharges are 320s. Like we're not hearing about FN or Glock or Steyr or Staccato or whoever. We're not hearing about it from any other pistol manufacturer. So, sheds more of the spotlight on SIG, unfortunately. But it is what it is. Now, I sat down and I also did a little bit of research, and it wasn't really about like all the incidents and the exact numbers and everything. I mean, it's so many at this point. It's like I don't really need to dive into the numbers. It's enough to where at Green Line we've basically I would say it's not a full out ban, but it's a temporary ban. Like it's a bit of a safety stand down. It's like, hey, until further notice, these guns are not allowed on the range. Please leave them at home or in your car or something along those lines. It doesn't mean that they'll always be banned. It's just, going forward until otherwise specified, they are banned. But if the M18, M17 turns out to be this big debacle, I believe that the DoD will have really three courses of action that will happen. Which one it's going to be, I have no idea. As we all know, the logical choice is not always the choice that the DoD makes. They very much factor in price when it comes to the acquisition portion of stuff. So, um, you know, if you want to get into that stuff, I can start talking about that stuff. Unless you have something else to add.
Yeah, I do. And I had an interesting point when you were just talking about Green Line. It's about trainers, right? And I was telling my buddy this, and we were talking about the 320, and if somebody called me up and was like, "Hey, man, I want to take one of your classes, but I want to run a freaking live hand grenade on my kit, but I'll pay all the money. Like, is that okay?" And obviously, the answer would be hell freaking no, because that's a safety issue, right? So if companies believe, and I stand behind them 100%. I stand behind Green Line's decision, Achilles Heel Tactical decision. I've seen Press Check Consulting, they're banning the 320 until further notice, Scott Jedlinski, and some others, right? If they think, as owners of the company, as owners of the training company, they make the choice. When we see something on the range as instructors and as company owners, it's up to us to make sure that we're providing a safe environment for our students to learn. The last thing that we want is to, in this controlled environment, have a safety issue with a weapon that is, the focus of the whole class. So 100% stand behind anybody that wants to ban these or put a temporary safety stand down, as you said, on these weapons until they can be further evaluated or until problems can be fixed, because obviously there is an issue. I've got no problem with it. I've talked to people on the other side too. Yesterday I called a friend of mine who, I won't say his name, but he is the administrator of we'll just say it's one of the largest shooting ranges west of the Mississippi. And I talked to him about this big time shooter, and his take on it was, so he's heavily involved with the USPSA, heavily involved with tactical games. They come out to his range, and he says, right now I think it's operator error completely. I think there's probably some issues with it, but it's kind of like the Serpa holster. Right now we're not there yet. He's not going to make a public statement on it because, why would he? I think you make a public statement on it when you have an affirmative action. And right now there's no action affirmative in his camp. And I know a lot of people are doing that. But I stand behind those guys, and I stand behind the people that want to ban them too, because really at the end of the day, it's up to them as trainers or as range administrators to decide what is safe and what is unsafe on their ranges.
Yeah, going back to what your buddy said, I think at this point it's not operator error anymore. It's progressed to the point where, and there's enough video evidence. This is not, nobody's operating these guns when they go off.
Yeah, I agree. Not operator error. I would say human interaction, right? I would say the Serpa is more operator error, but if you want to talk about the Serpa, the way that you operate that holster to disengage the pistol that's locked in there kind of makes an unsafe practice when you're drawing the pistol. And I think that's why those were banned, because people just started shooting themselves in the foot when they were drawing the pistol. Finger would, kind of slip off of that deactivation switch or that unlock switch and go right into the trigger guard, and they'd clock one off. Right now,
Right.
Is there a better way to do that with that? Yeah, of course. I think the people that designed it, at Blackhawk weren't thinking that people were going to actually do that, but inherently, Murphy's Law happens. So human interaction with the Sig P320 seems to be what's happening, but it is beyond operator error. I'll agree with you on that, because it seems like these guns, time after time, seem to be discharging in people's holsters, and that shouldn't happen. So there's some type of safety mechanism that is being defeated to allow these guns to fire. And again, I still haven't heard an exact, oh, guys, we figured it out. This is exactly why that's happening. Like Sig is saying, hey, something's got to be in the holster, something's got to be depressing the trigger. the guy that did the video with the slide movement, like he's even pressing the trigger back to the wall to get it to fire. It's not going to fire without that little bit of input on the trigger. So at this point, we still don't freaking know exactly what's happening with the guns.
Just to reply to Cam's comment, I don't know many trainers that can afford to ban anything. I know plenty of trainers that ban all sorts of things. Banning certain types of ammunition, banning certain types of holsters, certain types of guns, certain types of optics is very much the norm. It's all about mitigating risk and keeping the environment safe. So banning certain things happens all the time. You just need to probably read more course descriptions, because you'll if you read more trainers' course descriptions, it'll tell you, hey, don't bring this or don't shoot this type of ammo because we're shooting steel or whatever. So there are plenty of things that plenty of trainers ban. So I would tell you to maybe get out from under that rock you're living under.
Yeah, that's the first thing that came to mind is like we do ban certain things. Like we do not shoot green tips or steel core ammo in rifle classes where we're shooting steel.
Right.
That's banned.
Right. So, um, going back to what I was saying about, okay, we are here at this point. We've had multiple uncommanded discharges, multiple people wounded by these pistols, and sadly, and tragically, 2 people are already dead because of it. The first one was I think it was a civilian, and then the second one was obviously the airman at Warren Air Force Base there in Wyoming.
Right.
Just recently, what was that, Sunday? A week ago,
Yes.
today. Super super tragic, super unfortunate. Um, the 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 pinned Reddit comment that I read was, the gun was in a QLS Safariland holster, and he disengaged the gun in the holster, still inside the holster itself, and set it down. And when he did, the gun's still in the holster. It was pointed. I think it was pointed at him, and it discharged into him. I don't know if it was immediately after sitting the gun down, or if it rested there for a second or two and then went off. That it didn't get into detail about that stuff. So, we'll the investigation is still being undertaken by the Air Force OSI guys. So we'll have more information as that comes out, but it'll probably be a few weeks.
That was the rumor I heard too, and I'm curious if there's any like Air Force guys that know current gear and what they're doing. Do Air Force security forces carry QLS?
Yep.
You guys have been. I don't know. I would think that they're not switching out. I use QLS because I'm switching out freaking holsters and weapons constantly. I would think that they would just mount the holster directly to a mid ride. But again, those guys might
Now I
know.
guess they're want Safariland holsters for the retention and all that stuff. So when you buy a Safariland, it basically comes with a QLS
Yeah.
fork and everything. So
Yeah. So in case anybody in the comments is wondering, like, essentially what happened was QLS right here, holster was locked in, pistol was inside the holster, right? And then he took out the QLS, removed it like this, and set it down, just the holster, and then it detonated. It clocked off.
yep. So
Something like that is the rumor.
more on that as the investigation findings come out, but it'll be a while.
Yeah.
Anyways, I sat down today after doing some research, and I believe that one of 3 things is going to happen. Right off the bat, we talked earlier. We talked about bias and everything like that. And yeah, okay, I'm a little biased. I'm a Glock guy. I am financially at this point pretty vested in Glocks, with holsters, with lights, and other accoutrements. Optic plates and slides and sight systems and whatnot. So take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. So first course of action. Sig again, probably an admission of guilt, which I don't know that this will happen, but they have to redesign the fire control unit. And they start shipping out newly designed, improved, safe fire control units to unit level armors. And there's probably going to be some type of recall or upgrade or some modification for the civilian law enforcement side of the house as well. But new safe FCUs will start going out to armories for the M18, M17 series of pistols. How likely is that? I don't know, because again, that's an admission of guilt. Sig's going to have to bite the bullet on that, and there's probably some type of like, contract, violation of contract or something along those lines, because the MHS program stipulated that the pistol needed to do this, 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 and this, and amongst other things. And by having to send out a new fire control unit, well, then that means that pistol didn't actually, um, you know, meet the requirements for the MHS pistol program. And if you dive deep into the MHS pistol program, the testing phase, the SIG, the 320 or the M17 only completed half of the testing regimen before they stopped the testing, and the DoD was like, "Yep, we're just going to go with the SIG," which Glock, appealed and put up a fight against. Which brings me to my second point, or second course of action. If the SIG thing doesn't work out, I bet you Glock has been quietly gearing up for this, and they've probably set aside a couple of pallet loads of 19Xs that, should the moment strike or arise, they will quickly contact the DoD and be like, "Hey, just so you know, if you need a new pistol, we got a couple 100,000 ready to go. Here's what it's going to cost you," and they're going to have to renegotiate that MHS contract. So that is a course of action.
Yeah, so 450,000 to the military, 195K to the Army, 130K to the Air Force, 61,000 to the Navy, and 35,000 to the Marine Corps. So yeah, if SIG basically, took a step back and was like, "Hey, we do need to recontrol this, FCU, stand by." I don't know if they're doing that now. I think it would be smart and preemptive too. I still think that they're probably in a deny and defend, type of strategy. I don't think they're going to do that. 450,000 FCUs that they would have to send out, and the danger is that the military still may cancel the contract. So even if they're like, "Hey, we're sending you out a new FCU or a new part, add this, the safety dingus or whatever, add this trigger shoe," and everything it's just that, there's nothing wrong with the pistol at all, but add this, one additional safety that we think will help you guys out. Maybe that's how they do it and not admit to guilt. But the problem is that they still have all these lawsuits pending, and if they send out a modification to the gun that there's nothing wrong with, that cannot fire without a trigger pull, if they send out a fix to the military for that, how do they not lose all those lawsuits? I mean, how do the people, if I'm counsel for somebody that got shot in the leg, and the SIG sends out all these new parts to the military, I'm going to say like, "Hey, they just sent out all these freaking parts, 450,000 to the military because of what my client shot himself in the leg for.
Right.
Pay us."
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be that. And that the powers that be at SIG are crunching numbers. They're like, which ones, if it goes this way, how much money are we going to lose versus this way, how much money are we going to lose? They're crunching the numbers. I believe that the powers that be at SIG know something, and they're not being, honest and forthright about it. They're keeping it close hold information. They're waiting to see how this pans out. Um, you know, anyway, the third course of action that I see, again, I think that the 19X was the better pistol for sure in the MHS submission. It definitely had better reliability. It was a much simpler design. Um, if you watch a YouTube video, anybody's a Glock armorer. Not necessarily the case with the 320. And then just logistical support to get Glock parts is, I mean, I'm not saying that the military is going to do this because they can't. They have to get stuff that is in the supply system. They can't just go down to Cabela's and buy a replacement Glock part. But logistically, nationwide, Glock's got everybody beat. So it's not going to be that hard for them to just start pouring spare parts out to military bases because they can do it all over the country already and have been for 20, 30 years. Anyway, going back, the third course of action. Believe it or not, during the MHS program, the Beretta basically told them, hey, we can retool the M9 into the M9A3, and it comes in the M9A3. The military can get those cheaper than what they could get the original M9s for, because Beretta has since recouped its cost, decreased its manufacturing cost, and logistical issues. And the gun came in like $100 million under the Sig offering. However, before they even like really got a chance to submit the M9A3, the military, the DoD was like, nope, we're done with that entire platform. We're moving on to a striker fired gun. We don't want to have anything to do with, a double action, single action, hammer fired gun. So that is the third course of action that I could see possibly float back up. The DoD takes another look at a already proven platform that has a couple of improvements and meets the definition of a modular, pistol at that point, purely from a numbers aspect. They've already spent all this money on the original, the 320 line, the M17, M18, and just in a bid or a economical move to save the taxpayers money, they go with the lowest bidder, which would be the M9A3 Beretta from those guys. That's they started producing Berettas. I've shot a couple of M9A3s. They're pretty damn good guns. So that's the other possible course of action. So either redesign FCU from Sig, going with the Glock 19X from Glock, or going back and taking another look at the Beretta and getting a more modern, improved Beretta in the M9A3. So
I always loved the Beretta. I thought the Beretta was a great pistol, especially the newer ones.
I did not hate the Beretta. You can bust the locking blocks on them just through poor maintenance and just using the shit out of them. They will break locking blocks, but outside of that, they were accurate. They were pretty damn reliable. If you look at a Beretta versus say a Glock or even a Sig, your ejection port is only 90 to 120 degrees, right? On your standard striker fired pistols. Whereas a Beretta, the entire top of the damn gun, like it's very hard to have a stovepipe on a Beretta. I'm not saying you can't, but because the ejection port is basically the entire top end of the gun, it can decrease the instances of that happening. Now, there's a drawback. It's like, well, that's also more, or less material to keep out dust and debris if you're operating in a dusty, nasty environment like that. So everything's a trade-off. But
I think actually your second course of action is probably more likely than number one. I don't think that I still don't think that SIG has any intention of releasing some type of part that's going to quote unquote fix the issue with the 320, because according to SIG there is no issue with the 320. This has
Right.
been the standard issue pistol of the U.S. military since 2014. Maybe
Yeah.
it's just time that they move on, to another striker fired gun. I kind of hope they don't go, to the Beretta, and I don't think they would. It almost kind of feels like when MARSOC went back to the 1911 for like a month and a half,
Right.
or I don't know how long. What was it, like 3 years? But they were probably thinking like, why did we go back to a 100-year-old technology with a 7-round magazine? Like, why did we do that? I hope they stick with a striker fired gun, but again, 2014 was when the contract was starting to be fulfilled from SIG, and maybe they just move on. It's been 11 years. So maybe they move on to a different striker fire gun. Maybe it is Glock. I tend to agree with you. I think that the Glock, I have a 19X sitting in my safe right now, and I think it's a phenomenal pistol. It's incredibly easy to use. It'd be easy to train up the armorers. But I think probably least likely is that SIG would actually admit any type of guilt. I think that they're so invested in the 320, and my light keeps turning off here. I think they're so invested in the 320, and they've dug their heels in so much. I mean, with the marketing and the PR stuff that they put out, they have dug in so much. I really don't see them with any type of admission of wrongdoing, or they would have to do it in some way, shape, or form where they claim like, hey, we didn't know, like this was, beyond what we could possibly see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Either way, it's going to cost the taxpayers money. Um, because if you go with a different platform altogether, you've got to get all new holsters. You know, you've got to get possibly probably not mag pouches. You probably don't have to replace those, but um, just the holster support alone is pretty expensive because
Yeah.
every gun's gonna basically need a holster for the most part.
Yeah.
Um, and like I can shoot a 320. Like I shot them when I was in the guard. Like my guard unit had M17s, and they shoot pretty damn well. Like they're not bad shooting guns. I just want them to be safe. If these guns were safe, who gives a fucking shit? Here's the deal with with handguns in the military. They need to be safe, and they need to be reliable, and then they need to be quasi accurate, right? Those are what we really need in a handgun. Um, and if they meet all three of those things, then we're good. We don't fight wars with handguns. All right. Very, very rarely, like the guns that are the people that are getting issued these guns are not getting in like gunfights with handguns. All right. Um, if you look at the guys who are getting into gunfights with handguns, what are they carrying?
For the most part, 320s and Glocks
The the
right
sec-
now.
the special operations community is carrying Glocks. They're
Well, I'm
not
thinking about
carrying.
cops.
Well, I'm talking about the military. Um, Law enforcement, different story. Um, but outside of special operations, man, we don't shoot people with pistols in the military, right? And even in special operations, such a rarity. So it doesn't really matter what platform you go with, as long as it's safe and then reliable, right? Um, Sadly, the 320, it's just at this point, I don't think anybody can sit there with their hand to God and be like, "Yep, it's a safe gun." Could it be a safe gun? Yeah, I, I haven't given up on the platform. Um, I didn't just like throw it in the trash or anything like that. I've got it. I want to see how this shakes out. Can they fix it? Can they send a drop in replacement FCU that's worth a damn? only time will tell. We'll see what happens, but it is unfortunate at this point that two people are now no longer alive because there is something going on with Sig, and Sig has been eerily not just quiet. Um, they'll send you cease and desist letters, counter accusations and very threatening stuff. It's like, hey man, we're just trying to get to the bottom of this stuff. If you know something, you might be able to help the community. And so that the way that Sig is handling this is probably half the issue.
Well, the floodgates are open now. I mean, it's to a point where so many, like Mischief Machine, just put out a presser saying that they're no longer making those parts for P320s. I bet that holster companies are going to start no longer supporting the platform. So it's kind of going that way anyway. I think that they are not going to be able to keep up with cease and desist letters for everybody that's outright banning it or just stopping production for anything to support the platform. I'm the same as you, man. Like I didn't throw mine away either. I still have my 320s. I'll probably still shoot my 320s. I did go and buy another. I bought another main squeeze. So it was a tough decision for me because I picked up my Glocks and I'm like, man, there's nothing wrong with these freaking guns at all. But I still do not like the grip angle of the Glock. So I had to find another gun that was an 18-degree grip angle. I'm not going to shoot anything from frickin' Turkey, so that kind of narrows it down. I'll show you guys what I went ahead and purchased when it comes in. I think I'll probably have it tomorrow. But I did buy a new gun that I want to try out. I haven't tried out this pistol before, so I'm interested to see how it's going to replace my main gun. Again, my main gun for many years was this AXG Legion, this 320 AXG Legion, and I mean it's a freaking laser beam. So I hope the new one is
a pretty good gun if you like that 18-degree grip angle. It's a Glock, but it's not a Glock.
a Zev.
Man, these Shadow Systems guns, as long as you don't modify them internally, i.e., the trigger or any of the internal mechanisms, they are stupid reliable. They're fucking plenty accurate, and they point better than your standard Glock because the grip angle is closer to that of, say, a 1911, more neutral type grip angle. A lot of people come down on Shadow Systems. I have no idea why. Like, yeah, the trigger is not the best. It's basically a Gen 4 Glock trigger. Get over it, all right? Learn to shoot your gun. I can shoot these guns just fine. And if you're looking for something that's not a Glock, takes Glock magazines. But if you like how it points, if you like that 18-inch grip angle, man, dude, go check out a fucking Shadow Systems.
You know what? I did actually. My buddy's got a DR920. It's like their 5-inch.
Yeah, this is. It's a DR920.
But are you sure it's a 8? I think it's still a 22-degree grip angle. Put it up next to your Glock because
it's not quite what the Glock is.
Because I did look into it. In fact, out here in Colorado, the state police went to all Shadow Systems guns, and one of my instructors is a statey, and I shot his gun. But
it's a little bit different, just ever so slightly different than this is a 19. It's a little bit the Glock is more like this. The Shadow System is, ever so slightly more noticeably straight up and down. I would say let's see. Yeah, it's probably halfway between what the Sig 320 is and a Glock. So I notice when I do dry fire stuff, because the Shadow Systems presents a little bit better than a Glock, I typically pick up the dot just a little bit better on a Shadow Systems gun.
Right. Well, my new gun will be here tomorrow, and I'll probably show you guys that tomorrow. See what I went with. I'm excited to see how this one goes. I have a shitload invested into 320s. My goodness, you would not believe it. How
And
much I have
as we
invested
were
in
we
320s.
were talking about it earlier when I was in Colorado, man. Like, I don't hate Sig per se. Um, I don't like how they're handling this for sure. But dude, like, I like 226s, man. I like 220s. The 365s are pretty damn good guns too. Sig does make some good guns. So if you're, I'm not up here to like trash Sig and their products. I think they have a slew of good guns. They have, the 320's got some issues for sure. The 250 was a fucking turd as well, but 226s, 229s, 220s, and 365s, hell yeah, man.
I almost went back to a 226 because again, that grip angle, but I have one behind me on the wall here. It's a Mark 25, but the newer 226 Legion is actually a single action only. But
Yeah.
again, I'm just not going back to a frickin' external safety. I don't like them. So if I want to go back to an external safety, I'll go to a frickin' back to a Beretta.
Yeah.
But um, let's talk about training.
Yeah, dude.
So again, when we started this off, we had Sam out for Goons Night Out. It's freaking awesome. Hope to have you out again next year in October for Goons Night Out. What do you have? What do you have coming up? And then I'll tell you what we got coming up.
So the next thing I have is in be mid-September. I'm up in Minnesota for about a week with Warrior Poet Society, and then the week after, I'm in North Georgia with Warrior Poet Society. So basically, the last 2 weeks of September, I'm on the range either in Minnesota or Georgia, and then I have about 2 week break in early October, and then Green Line has a helicopter class. We've got an aerial target class in coastal Georgia that I'm doing. I turn around and I go. Where do I go after that? I go up to Ohio with Warrior Poet Society that next week, and then turn around on Friday and drive down. And there's this range event similar to Goons Night Out called Low Country Range Day.
Yeah.
And that is, I think that's October 25th, 6th, and 7th. That's in coastal Georgia. So I'll be back there. And then the next week after that, I believe I have some War Poet stuff. So Green Line, War Poet, Low Country, and then War Poet again, basically the last half of October. Um, Whether you want to shoot rifles and pistols with me or shoot out of a helicopter flying around in a little bird, I'm going to be busy. So I got something for everybody. And then, as you know, right after that, we go into Night Ops Summit season. So I've got
Yeah.
Night Ops Summit in coastal Georgia, and then 2 weeks later, I'm in Texas with Warrior Poet Society, and then we're doing the Night Ops Summit also in Texas right before Thanksgiving there. So the last, really, I guess the first 3 quarters of November are going to be real busy for me. So
Well, I'm super excited for Night Up Summit in Texas. I'll be going to that one, so I can't wait to go and shoot with you guys. I wanted to ask you this. I was going to text you, but I may as well ask you right now and put you on the spot. If you were a student going to Night Up Summit in Texas, now I've already picked my classes. I think I made some pretty good picks, and I won't tell you what they are because I want to know your take. If you were a student and you were going to take Night Op Summit in Texas, what training blocks or classes would you pick?
well, it kind of depends on at what level am I as a student? Have I had prior night vision training? Am I, basically, am I Billy Baxter, who knows his equipment and his gear already, or is this my first time into the night vision realm? So if it's a newer guy who maybe has done the day stuff and is a
Yeah, give us both.
Yeah, so if you're a proficient day shooter, like you can do all the ready ups and safely handle, rifles and pistols, man. Um, I think the first thing you should take is probably Night Fighter Light. Like that's your baseline night vision class. Um, you're going to learn about night vision. You're going to learn about your gear. We're going to have it set up properly. We're going to run through all the different ready positions, and we're going to learn the switchology and how to switch modes on your lasers and your lights and your optics and all that stuff, so that when you're presented with problems, you're kind of like, oh, I need to do this or that or whatever, right? You know your gear, and then after that, once you know your gear, then you can start going to the follow-on classes. And this is where somebody like you would want to probably jump in as far as what classes to go to. So, man, Dark Lab, Dark Lab's a really good fucking class. Now, I also know you've taken Dark Lab before, so if you didn't take that class, I wouldn't blame you because you've already done the actual 2 night version of it. But Dark Lab is a fucking hell of a good class. It is problem solving, you know, to the nth degree with all of your gear, and you're going to be presented some very interesting equations to work through with all your stuff, and possibly with a buddy. So there's that. Um, Man, as far as Summit is concerned, it's the only place I know that we're doing an open enrollment breaching class. So if you've ever wanted to like strap on all your gear, nods, and all this stuff, and blast locks on doors with breaching rounds out of a shotgun, or use breech pins to cut rebar and padlocks and stuff, as well as using like hoolies and halligans and breacher bars to break open door frames and stuff like that. Like out in the civilian world, you don't often get a chance to do it. You definitely don't get a chance to do it very often under night vision. So that would be a class that definitely caught my eye, and I might steer people into that class. That'd be kind of fun. The urban movement class probably be pretty cool. Um, we've done shoot house stuff, but as far as like, hey, let's talk about patrolling in a like military operations in urban terrain, like mount stuff.
Yeah.
So that's another cool class. Um, the shoot house at Dilley, Texas, is probably in the top 3 best shoot houses that anybody can get into. It's not like on some, military special operations compound training facility. This is, I say the public, um, but you have access to that, and it is a hell of a good shoot house. It is like 10,000 square feet. Like you can get lost in there if you're not careful, kind of thing. So anything in that shoot house is really freaking cool. Um, and then there's a whole other bunch of classes in there. I'm doing Care After Dark Under Fire with Caleb Causey. Basically, you're gonna roll around in the dirt a little bit. You're gonna get nasty. You're gonna work in a 2 or a 4-man element to kind of do TCCC on a down teammate in a live fire environment. And there will be it's kind of scenario based stuff, but it's taken that, hey, you've already taken a attack med class. Well, let's see if you can do it in the dark. Let's see if you can do it under stress. Let's see if you can do it with people shooting guns around you. Let's see if you can do a patient assessment and figure out where the hemorrhage and all that nasty stuff is coming from in the dark. So contextual relevance, I don't know, but the idea is to medical training is cool and all, but it's not sexy, right? And so it's kind of hard to get folks real motivated about medical stuff. So it's like, hey, let's make this let's up the difficulty, make it a little bit more sexy, and then I think more people will maybe get stuff out of it. And then if they ever have to do it, well, hey, if it's nice and sunny and fair weather, then it's just going to be that much easier. So if you can do it in the dark, at Night Op Summit, doing it out in the real world, on a sunny day is probably no big deal to you. So that's the other class. Again, come train with me, don't come train with me. Either way, come to Night Ops Summit, get training from somebody. I mean, Mocha Bear will be there, and TNVC will also be there teaching classes. But 3 nights of training, you're not going to strike out, no matter what classes you get into. So.
Well, I'm super excited. I'm taking building clearing or CQB with Dawn, and then I'm doing another CQB class that you guys are offering, and then I'm doing your vehicle tactics course. So I'm excited about that. We teach a vehicle CQB course as well. So just excited to kind of broaden out my skill with training that and with teaching that and with also being a student. So I'm super excited for the classes that I picked, but I really wish it was a week long so I can take all those other classes, because one of the ones that I was like, damn, I really want to take that, and I almost called John Jew to talk to him more about it, was the breaching class. But I'm happy with my selections, even though I'll have a little bit of FOMO when those guys are getting to breach and kick in doors and shoot in the shoot house. That just sounds like a lot of fun. Night Up Summit, guys, for anybody that has not been to Night Up Summit, and you guys that have been, you guys know, it's one of those events that people will just come back to and back to and back to over and over again because of, one, just the phenomenal teaching, the instruction, the incredible facilities, the camaraderie that you have with your buddies, and the friends and the partners, the friends that you make and the partnerships that you guys make there with not only the other shooters, but the instructors and all the vendors that come out. So a lot of vendors are coming out to this event like Night Ops Summit to showcase the latest and greatest, their gear, their equipment, their weapons, and it's just awesome. Hopefully we get to buy some stuff, because I think last Night Ops Summit I left with some cool goodies, and hopefully we'll be able to do that this year too.
Oh yeah. Most of the vendors bring stuff, so yeah, dude. November is going to be a busy month, but there's worse things out there than being busy, so I'll take busy.
That's right. So yeah, so I'm excited for that. We've got here in Colorado on the western slope at Cameo coming up, we have a concealed carry class with our new curriculum. If you're familiar with that, Colorado just changed the training requirement for concealed carry. So our first concealed carry class with the new training requirement is going to be in September. And then later in the month, we will have our 2-day vehicle CQB class, which we're super excited about. This is a pistol vehicle CQB course. Check that out on the website. And then in October, our long-range precision 2-day class up in Cameo at the LRP, 2,000 yards of shooting steel. So we shoot out to 2,000 yards with your weapon, with your equipment. We shoot also unknown distances, angles. We go over everything in the 2-day class to turn you into a frickin' tack driver with your precision rifle. So we're super excited for that. And that's what we got coming up right now in the near future this year. And then SHOT Show is right around the corner, where I think you guys have another Night Ops Summit right in Vegas. Is that right?
Yep, the weekend before SHOT, we're back at it. So it's like, oh, I was going to go to Vegas anyway for SHOT. Well, bring your night vision, jump into the Pro Gun Club there. Actually, I think technically it's in like Henderson, Boulder City, but that's a really cool facility, man. Like they have, it's almost as good as Dilley, Texas. In some ways it's better, in some ways Dilley's better, but it's a cool facility. And Pro Gun Club's a damn good club. So when Don was like, hey, we're going to do one in there, I was like, cool, let's do it.
Is it the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday just before the week of SHOT?
Yep.
Nice. Excellent.
If you're going to SHOT, you'll have that 1-day break. that Monday to kind of like lick your wounds or whatever, reset, and then go right into the show Tuesday through Friday.
Might have to attend that too. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Talk to Don. We got special pricing if you want to do more than one kind of deal. But yeah, dude, just come hang out and shoot guns with us. Either way, we'll go to Raw Sushi again and crush it in Vegas like we always do.
100%, brother. Sounds good, man.
Yeah,
Great chat with you, man. I think we covered it.
yeah, man. I think this went pretty well. If you want to post that one to your account, that'd be cool. And yeah, dude. Anytime you want to just talk shop, I'm open to it.
Sounds good, brother. Good seeing you, man. Be in
Absolutely.
touch.
I'll see
Later.
you.